Sale prices are still struggling as mortgage rates tick up in Portland, Oregon real estate, and that's despite the Fed cutting their rate last week. It's time to take a look at the very latest stats and trends in our local real estate market. Hi everyone, RRMilligan here, bringing you the very latest in our local real estate stats and trends for the full Portland metro real estate market. That's including Southwest Washington. If you're curious about a specific neighborhood or municipality in the metro area, just drop me a line and let me know. I'll be more than happy to share with you anything that I can find out. First up, our sale prices. The average sale price increased from the lows that we saw at the end of November. Of course, that was for the very sleepy week of Thanksgiving. Prices were up about 3% from the previous week and landed about 0.3% higher than the same week last year. That doesn't look like much, but it is a heck of a lot better than the 1.9% drop we saw in the average sale price when we compared November 2025 to November of 2024. The supply of homes for buyers to choose from continues to fall, but it is normal to see that this time of year. The number of homes that hit the market this past week was way above the week of Thanksgiving, which again is kind of a sleepy week for real estate. However, the new supply was down about 14% compared to the same week last year. So we are still seeing fewer homes coming to the active market, and more sellers have been taking their homes off the active market. That delisting trend that we've been following both locally and nationally. The number of canceled and expired listings this past week did outpace last year by about 27%. Now on to buyer demand. For a few months now, buyer demand has been outpacing, or at the very least, keeping track with last year's demand. This past week, for the first time in a long time, the number of new purchase agreements agreed to by buyers and sellers was down by about 15% compared to the same week in 2024. Like I always say though, we can see some volatility in our week-to-week numbers due to the smaller sample size that we're working with. So I'd want to see a couple more weeks in line with these numbers before I get too excited about what we're seeing and declare this a new trend. Next up, our mortgage rates. Last week, the Fed board voted to decrease the Fed funds rate by another 1/4 of a point. That is the third straight meeting where they've done that. The Fed rate, as I said last week, doesn't have a direct effect on mortgage rates, but it does influence them. So it's not a huge surprise that the interest rate for the 30-year fixed mortgage moved up 1/8 of a point this week from 5.875% to 6%. The markets tend to have a bit of a knee-jerk reaction to new news, so I'm looking to next week to see where the rates settle as we wrap up 2025. The Fed did forecast that they are only anticipating one rate reduction in 2026, but despite this announcement from Chairman Powell, the Fed futures market still had a 77% expectation that we'll see 2 or more rate cuts this next year. So let's wrap up this report with a quick summary of the biggest trends that we are following. Sale prices are back up. Supply is still down. Demand is down compared to last year, and mortgage rates ticked up just a smidge. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's report. I hope that you got something helpful and informative out of the report. If you did, I would love a like or even a subscribe if you haven't already. Have a fantastic weekend, and I will see you right here next week.